Moderate a session for the first 10 minutes-ish. We're going to do an interview that's being podcasted live on Facebook Live, and I think it's also on the Dave Lykken radio show. So, Dave Lykken, if you don't mind, tell a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Good. Well, 45 years in the mortgage industry, and tried retiring. That didn't work out so well for me. My wife thought that I should get doing something else, so I started consulting 16 years ago. Love it. I love helping people with messaging and marketing, and I'm excited about being here and getting with some great friends. These guys, I just met this big, tall guy last night, and just so excited about it. Brother-in-law to Casey, one of my clients. And then Jason, just so impressed with what you're doing. So I'm excited to share.
Good. Our goal is for you guys to see some live content being created, and then come out of here with some skills and ideas and strategies to create some of your own content. Jake, if you wouldn't mind telling a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Sure. Jake Fehling. I lead the marketing team at Movement Mortgage, based in Charlotte, North Carolina. So excited to be out here in California. But I am a former sports marketing guy turned life sciences, healthcare marketing guy to now mortgage, exactly how I planned it 10 years ago. But yeah, I've been in the industry about 2 years, and it's been a wild and fun ride.
Yeah, well, you do a great job. I mean, everybody I think in the mortgage industry knows Movement's social platform, and you're the guy that's helping execute that content and drive the strategy. Jason, if you don't mind, tell a little bit about yourself.
So I'm Jason Frazier. I'm the founder and CEO of The Agent Marketer. My background is predominantly in venture capital technology startups. I used to work for Peter Thiel, who's the founder of PayPal. About 10 years ago, I joined Mason Duffy Mortgage. It's a family business. I grew up in the mortgage and real estate industry. It's a family thing for me, so I joined them in 2009. I recently just left them to start my own thing. I have a tremendous passion and respect for the mortgage industry and real estate, so I use that and my contrarian upbringing to do different things in marketing and technology.
Beautiful, guys. So we want you to walk away with some clarity and some ideas around how to create content, and then how to take content, one piece of content, the term is pillar content, core content, and create a lot of micro content and synergy content from that. So I'm going to give it to you, Dave, if you don't mind doing the first round on, define pillar content from your perspective.
Well, who are in the other session? Anyone in the other room heard the session? So I think the pillar is when you can articulate why you are doing what you're doing, because it doesn't matter who you work for, it doesn't matter what they're doing. When you can clearly communicate your why, and then it connected to your desired audience's why, you have a relationship that is just destined for some exciting things. So the pillar content for me and what I get all my clients to think about is why are you in business? Why are you doing what you're doing? And that, everything will come from that. And I don't think there's anyone who's better that guys do that, such a great job over there.
Wow. That's a great segue. You want me to take it from here?
Yeah.
So I think of pillar content as being very efficient with your content. I think I was in one of the sessions yesterday. It's like you don't need to just create and keep spinning it every single time, and don't post it more than 3 times. For us, it's find that pillar piece of content, and we do a segment called Coffee with Casey, which is our CEO, Casey Crawford, where we just go and we document about an hour of him interviewing someone in the industry. And then from there, you can chop it up a million different ways, whether that's audio, we just launched a podcast, shameless plug, earlier this week, or LinkedIn articles, or social media graphics, or anything like that. But it's taking that larger piece, and then from there, don't create extra work for yourself, be efficient, and be creative with that larger piece of content.
Love that.
Yeah, so it's going to be hard to kind of say anything different, but for the way I look at it, for me, pillar content holds up your foundation, right? And your foundation is your business or your message, and that's where people are going to come into to hopefully enter your funnel, right? So that's really what we want. We want the reach and attention of the consumer so they actually will have a chance for us to show our value, to give our message out. And so pillar content is those main pieces of content that's holding up that foundation. And then what we're going to be talking about doing, creating some of that, is that micro content to put focus in that. So you can think of each pillar as a hub, and you have your spokes out. So if that pillar content happens to be a blog post, if it happens to be a live video, and then maybe you're doing an Instagram post to point to that blog or point to that video, or you're doing a YouTube video to point to the blog, and that's where your spokes, and you just got to decide from a strategy standpoint how I want to funnel those people into that pillar content that's going to have maybe a start of a top of a funnel, maybe it's going to have a message, maybe it's going to have more just brand recognition. It's really up to you, and that's how I view pillar content.
Great, and I'll kind of wrap it around my thoughts. So I create a lot of videos on YouTube. Our YouTube channel has new content coming in weekly, but I did a call called Script-A-Palooza. And I had, a dozen top producers. They all came in and shared some of their best scripts.
It was awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. Not that but then out of that, you could cut and have these quick hits.
Yep.
So the big call is the pillar, and then you could do specific scripts, and then you could have quotes. Like out of that, a quote. I don't know exactly who said it. I'm getting credit for it. That I don't believe loan officers will get put out of business by technology. But I believe loan officers that master technology will crush loan officers that don't. That quote came from, a call that we did. So you got the pillar content, and then you have quick hits. It could be quotes. And then, by the way, the term micro content is pretty common where you took, everything I just described was micro content. But then you could have also, done an interview, kept playing that same story and done an interview about that content. So hopefully you guys have a better understanding of pillar content, and then hopefully you're going to come out of the room. We're going to analyze some pillar content, and then we're going to break up into groups and turn it into a bunch of micro content. So let's transition, guys, to tools of the trade, because I think when it comes to creating content, a lot of people they just get held up on like, how do I do it? They overcomplicate it. So if you don't mind just sharing your tools of the trade, and then we'll really net that out, and then we'll break up into some groups, and we'll create some content together.
Well, I started my podcast, which is, I think, one of the most effective ways. And we have 450,000 downloads, over 100,000 mortgage professionals out of an industry that employs 600-some thousand. That's got a pretty good size audience there. And the goal was, what's interesting, for the reason I got into it, the why was I was speaking, and I needed to get some information, so I went out and trying to find content that's out there. I couldn't find any content. I'm an entrepreneur, so I saw a need, and I nothing there, so I put the two together and started that 9 years ago, and it's interesting to see. I think we were the first one that was doing it for a long, long time. I think the content is so critical, and what I think the biggest misnomer for people that don't want to get started at this is they start like, it's like, you ever had writer's block where you need to write a sheet of paper, or you need to write a term paper or something, and you start with a blank sheet of paper and you start. And you sit and you stare at that. I think that's the biggest thing that holds most people back. So what I would say is shamelessly take something that Dave does or anyone at this table does and repurpose it. You can build your identity around someone else's content, so you don't have to do it. So the tools of my trade, you chose podcasting. I love video. For me, I want to reach as many people as possible, and so I chose podcasting so you can listen to it when you're working out, you can listen to it when you're driving, to and from work. So that's the tools of my trade. And you can see that big studio I have out there that I pack everything around. I literally have it down to a little bag. It's this big. I was going to bring it in here. If you come over to my session, I'll have it here. And you can literally do a podcast from this phone, and I do 2 lavs off of that, and I can do a podcast all the time.
So I don't want to put you on the spot. I don't know how close you could get that while other people are asking. I would love for people just to see that.
Yeah, I'll go get it and set it up.
Okay, I want to make sure everybody sees it because it really is so simple. If you don't mind sharing your tools of your trade.
Yeah, really. I love how you just gave everyone permission to rip your videos, our videos.
Yeah, do it, man.
I love it.
Yeah.
Please feel free to share any movement video. We're happy. You're welcome to repurpose everything. You all have the green light. But I think you nailed it. So we want to, what I try to tell people is avoid that writer's block. Like, you do what comes naturally to you. So if you're a writer, then maybe just stick to LinkedIn articles. Or maybe you like to talk, you got pipes like this guy, then it's like, all right, well then I'm gonna do audio. I like to talk, I like to do video, that comes naturally to me, so stick there. Movement, our brand was put on the map with videos. We make really cool videos. We've got all these resources, we've invested in cameras and studio space and all that. So for us, that's what came naturally. So we've got the staff, we've got the expertise. We're going to film things, and then chop it up from there. So that's why audio, even though, you know, I've hosted a couple podcasts, that sort of is the lagging piece of content. Video always starts for us, and then from there, what are the creative ways that we can leverage it in other platforms?
Love it.
So I'm going to focus just on voice, just because what's happening now is voice is just taking off. In fact, people are listening to, are starting to consume more voice in regards to podcasts, to flash briefings, to using voice-enabled speakers, things that you have on your phone, more than they are doing video. And so video is great, and that's never going away, but audio is a way for people to passively listen to your content. So for me, I could use my phone, I could use the voice recorder on my phone, I could use my Apple AirPods, I could use plugged-in headphones, I use GarageBand on my Mac to record my podcast and to record my flash briefings for Alexa, which is what I'm going to talk about. It's an untapped territory, and you could really own market share by getting on it now. I use a Blue Yeti mic. It's $99 from Amazon. You could get that. Or I use my plugged-in headphones to my Mac. You guys don't have to be perfect. That's the problem, is people think they need to invest in all this equipment. I mean, we got a lot of cool tools. If you watch Savage, you know he's got a lot of cool stuff. But he'll tell you, too, you don't need all the tools, right? You can't focus on, because guess what? If you're... The net value of 0 is 0. So if you get everything and you get, you know, like writer's block, you don't want to do it, then you're not doing anything. So it doesn't matter. Getting done is better than being perfect. And what people don't understand is that from a consumer standpoint, they're going to identify with imperfection more than they will perfection, right? Perfection is maybe something they want to get to, but they're going to identify with the person that and stutters and screws up on video. I'm telling you right now, if all of you do a live video right now and screw up and do bloopers and just totally screw up, I will guarantee you that will get more views than if it's completely polished and perfect.
Love that. So for my tools of my trade, I always start with capture. How do I capture? And I would say, I don't know if it's what the percentage is, but my iPhone, you know, so the camera on a phone is amazing. People are there in my group. There's a mount over there. Cost me $7. Yes, if anybody goes to our Facebook group, I did an interview with Steve Scanlon after the session. So the session to me was the core content. I loved that meditation message that he had. I had literally a 3-minute sync up with Steve saying, Steve, I love this. I want this to be the punchline. We went back there and we recorded a video, and then I uploaded that into YouTube on my mobile phone. So that was the tool of the trade. I do a lot of my captures using Zoom. So I'm a big fan of Zoom. I'm not going to get it, you know, I've used GoToMeeting, I've used BlueJeans. I do like Zoom a lot for a lot of reasons. So that's the software. When you see a lot of the interviews we do, that's the technology I use. I also, the desktop camera, or the laptop camera, I have an Apple. I do like Apples. Recommend that. Now the camera on my laptop is not as quality. So I have a Logitech, I think $150 camera. That's an add-on, so most of the videos, they'll be on that. A couple recommendations. So you have this capture device. Landscape is usually a better shot. So I always kind of think like, this is freshman, this is varsity, you know? So recommend if you want to be a varsity player, capture like that. Now, obviously, if you're doing Instagram content and format that requires landscape, that's great. But the best capture is like this. And then one other trick I recommend is you want to get the video at head high. So I have a little booster. Some of you saw me, I was doing a live mastermind, put my laptop up like this, captured it. So, you know, I'm not looking down at everybody. You either want to have the camera coming down at you a little bit or flat. So always think of that as elevation. But so, you know, just summary, everybody you heard here, they've got simple and cheap for the most part. I mean, I did pay for the best camera that I could put on my laptop, $150. But my biggest advice with tools of the trade for folks is don't worry about the best. Just get after it.
Yeah,
you know,
it's
don't
about the
let
content.
anything hold you back from creating content. Assuming you want to use social media, you want to maximize the influence that you have with both customers and prospects, just get after it and then incrementally get better. You know, I mean, if you looked at some of the early interviews that I did,
They're gonna
versus
be
where
awful.
they're at,
The
it's
first few
just,
are gonna be
yeah,
tough.
it's embarrassing. So
But they're still there.
yeah, you know, I get over it. So we're going to transition, and we're going to break up into 4 groups. I know you had something a transitionary message, but hopefully that was valuable for you guys.
You guys. So apparently when I say pillar content, it sounds like pillow content, so I'm going to really distinguish the R today. So does everyone recognize that that in itself is a piece of pillar content, right? Yeah? And we're actually going to take that, and there's a Facebook Live happening right over there, and release, all of the content that we're going to create over that, so that hopefully over time that'll give you an idea of what else can happen. So we call it the 1 to 30. It's the creating that one piece of beautiful content. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be impactful. Okay, putting it onto things like Instagram TV, Facebook Watch, YouTube, and then your blog as a home, and then creating lots of different micro pieces on lots of different platforms to drive the traffic to that pillar content. And so what we're going to do today, we're going to break up into 4 groups. These fine gentlemen are going to lead a session against each whiteboard in their areas of speciality. We have a piece of very short pillar content from yesterday from the Future Buyers section, and it's currently hosted on our Instagram and Facebook pages. So before we split up into our groups, I'm going to ask you to jump onto our Facebook or Instagram account, like it, of course, and then watch the latest video on there. It's just a minute. It's about the right message to the right people. And then we're going to break up into the 4 groups. Jason is going to talk about how you can create flash briefings around that content. Dave Savage is going to help you create some video around that content. Dave Lykken is going to talk about voice around that content. And Jake is going to lead his team on LinkedIn content and LinkedIn articles. So if you could all jump onto our Facebook or Instagram page and have a look at that video, we're just going to...
No signal.
Sorry? No signal. If you connect to Tenaya, this is the Tenaya room.
Yeah, tried.
That should work for you.
Hey, and then another thing, I would like to ask all 3 of you guys, if you don't mind listing out your tools of the trade and doing a post on your Facebook group, the Social Survey Facebook group. Would you guys all be willing to make a post on that? So,
Absolutely.
I saw you guys taking notes. We want to make sure you get as much value as possible. And then we also want to make sure you get as much engagement with the Social Survey crew online post us. So we'll all do that. And then again, everybody, if you could go to the page right now, make sure you like it, and then make sure you check it out.
Now we're going to split the room up into 4 quarters. So if you could go to your corners as you're watching the video, we have 20 minutes to create some amazing content. These guys have a place to hold the content, so they'll give you their email address to send it to, and we'll get it that way. And I look forward to seeing everything that you're going to create. Let's do this.
Good.
Okay. Quick pick.
Hey, yeah. Come on, Vic. Deep.